This was the most hectic, unorganized orientation. Literally so much hair in the shower. Why? There was basically no evidence that I had even went to high school.
I've been watching you, so tell me what to do. I want it, girl, I need it. Give me all of you tonight.
Hi, I'm Tassie and welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome home, and if you're a new subscriber, make yourself at home. So this is technically going to be a story time, but this is also meant to give someone advice or a little bit of insight on their first year of college. Because I feel like, personally, there's not too many people that are honest about college as a whole or their experiences. And if you're a first generation college student like me, there's like a lot of other factors that go into college that they just do not talk about. So today I will be letting you guys into my first year of college from beginning to end, and basically just letting you know the ins and outs of everything that I had to deal with, things that I wish I could have did differently, things I wish I would have known. I'm letting it all out today. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So when I was in high school and I was first starting to think about college and apply for colleges, the first school that I wanted to go to was Miami Oxford University. And then by my junior year, I had kind of switched it up and said that I wanted to go to Kent State University. But ultimately, I felt like it was really important for me to go to a HBCU after sitting down on it, doing some research, and just like, getting to know the whole 9 yards of what a HBCU meant. Because in reality, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but in reality, when we talk about colleges and universities, HBCUs tend to get left out a lot. Whether you go to a school that's predominantly black or not, they always try to like push the PWIs into your peripheral. And I had always knew about HBCUs, but the thing is, I didn't really give it that much of a thought. So by the time like my end of junior year, ultimately like my whole senior year, I decided that it was really, really important for me to go to a HBCU. So the first HBCU that I thought of going to was actually Fisk University. I had my heart set on that place because it was located in Tennessee, and I'm just like, a HBCU down south, that's like the most authentic HBCU experience. That's not saying that you have to be in the South to be, a part of the HBCU experience, but all in all, it's just like, it's a different, I don't know how to explain it, it's a different vibe, And a lot of the HBCU history actually came from the South and traveled and made its way into other different parts of the US. But predominantly in the South and like on the East Coast, there's a lot of HBCUs. And because I sat down and I did my research and I looked into things, I thought that Fisk University was like a great school. So ultimately, that was like my first love. But my school, we actually had waivers that allowed us to apply to like more than one school without paying a application fee. So of course I applied to other schools and not just Fisk, but I definitely had my heart set on Fisk. So the universities that I applied to was Fisk University being my first choice, Kent State being like a runner-up, Wilberforce University, and Central State University. As you can probably tell from the thumbnail, I clearly committed to Central State University. Reason being is because, for one, Fisk University didn't accept me. It's okay, but I kind of already assumed that they weren't going to, because their requirements were kind of like, they weren't high, but at the same time they were like very demanding, so I wasn't, too far off. And I believe I got accepted into Kent State, but it was just something about it where I'm just like, I'm not really feeling it. I could care less about it, so I just decided I didn't want that. And I got accepted into Wilberforce, but I didn't go to Wilberforce because I had heard that they were actually on the verge of shutting down at that point. Like, that's what my advisor told me. She told me that they were basically going out of business, and that's why it was so cheap for us to go, and that they were like practically accepting anybody, which I mean technically they did because they accepted me. But yeah, like in my mind, I didn't want to go to a school for like 1 or 2 years and then it just shuts down and I have to go somewhere else. Like, I just felt like, what was the point? That's defeating the whole purpose. So ultimately, I committed to Central State University because it was an HBCU, it was cheap, it was close to my house. I'm literally like an hour away from campus. But I'm not gonna lie to you, Central State was not my first choice at all. I remember visiting Central State when I was in like 8th grade, and I wasn't really all that impressed. It might have been because when we went to go tour the school, a lot of the students had already gone home, so we never really got to see campus life. We never got to see, you know, much of anything. Like, we were basically just taking tours of empty buildings that, you know, just like, what do you want me to do with an empty building? Because it's different when you take me to a building and you show it off, but you're also showing that, yes, this is where they come together and they might play ping pong and study and this, that, and the third, but we didn't get any of that. This was during a time where like a lot of repairs were going on too, so like by the time I actually got to campus, there were like a lot of changes, but when it all came down to it, when I first seen it, I just wasn't really feeling it. Not to mention, I was doing my research and looking into things, and the overall rating for Central State was not really all that positive. Like, it was average, but at the same time, it was like a lot of cons to going to that school that I had heard of from researching. So I was just kind of iffy about it. But ultimately, I knew that I wanted to go to a school that was outside of Cincinnati, and I wanted to go to a HBCU. And there was my opportunity. But not only that, it was actually the first school to accept me. So, you know, a presenter had actually came to my school and gave us the option that if we wanted to apply right then and there, it was a large possibility that we could get accepted. And in order to get accepted, you needed your ACT scores and a copy of your transcripts. And our advisors and some of our teachers actually advised us to print out our transcripts, like multiple copies of our transcripts, because when we go to college fairs and we go to all these different places relating to college, we can just give them our information right then and there, and we don't really have to worry about being on a waiting list, waiting to get accepted or whatever. You can just give them your information right then and there, and it's a large possibility that you'll probably be like one of the first few people in your graduating class to be accepted. So I still had a copy of one of my transcripts, and I gave that over to her, as well as my ACT scores. And this is completely crumbled up, and I don't think it has any important information on it, but this is completely crumbled up, and this was my unofficial acceptance letter. This was on, I don't know if you can see that, let me see. Hopefully you guys can read that, but it was November 2015 when I got accepted. If I can find the email, I will also link that too, but that was technically my official letter to Central as well. I believe I didn't get mine until like, what, I want to say probably January. It was like a few months later after I had got the unofficial letter. But yeah, in the letter, it actually does state that my official letter will actually contain all of my student information, as far as my student ID, my email for my student account, my password, all of that. And when I got my official letter, I actually didn't get any of that information. So that was a little bit of a buzzkill, because I'm just like, okay, so how do I get into my student information if I can't even see it? Because ultimately, a lot of the things that I had to do at orientation resulted in my account, and it's just like, if I can't get into my account and I don't know my account information, how is this gonna work? And you know, I tried calling people to get my information as well, but like, that's one of the biggest problems with this school. Like, nobody ever knows how to answer the phone. So I went all these months with things that I could have honestly handled myself, not even being able to handle it because I didn't have my proper login or my proper information for me to even function as a normal student. I couldn't meet my roommate in advance, I couldn't talk to her in advance, I couldn't do anything. So ultimately, I had to wait until we went off to orientation in order to do literally anything. And if I remember correctly, my orientation was like early July, late June. So yeah, that was like a little minute. And in all honesty, I was considered a late registration too, because I did not fully commit to Central State University until like probably my second semester, almost going into prom and graduation and stuff like that. Because I had my heart set on Fisk, and like, they took forever to respond back to me. So like, I waited and waited and waited until it was time for me to commit to a school, because I really wanted to go to Fisk. And not only that, when you committed to CSU, they said that in order for you to officially commit, you had to pay them $300. So before I cough up any money, I need to make 100% sure that this is where I want to go. So because I was late registration, I actually got, what was that, the last orientation date. And this orientation, and let me tell you about this orientation. This was the most hectic, unorganized orientation I have ever been to in my life. There were so many people, so many people, because yeah, fun fact, I was actually in a class of 900 freshmen. So they only had like, what, 4 orientation dates that year? So you do the math. You do the math. How many people do you think were in there? And to add insult to injury, I wasn't even on the main campus. We were at the Dayton branch for our orientation. The campus itself isn't that big, but at the same time, it was way bigger than the branch. So that's what made it 10 times worse, because it's literally like this one little room with a bunch of tables and a bunch of people. It was madness. It was so crazy. Not to mention that I would think if I was to set up an orientation that the first thing that a student would need to do is their financial aid, and like all the tables would go in order. But for some reason at their orientation, nothing went in order. So you're stopping at the first table thinking that you're doing something right. And then they tell you to go talk to somebody else that's over across the room. And then that person tells you you can't talk to them until you get this done. And then you can't talk to them until you get this done. And it's just like you're literally playing hopscotch across the room, waiting in these long lines to speak to someone just to find out that you have to speak to someone else. It was literally so, oh my God, it was so crazy. And it was hot. That's all I remember. It was hot in there. It was like so, oh my goodness. I'm getting war flashbacks. Like that was literally just like so hectic, and I was so happy to get out of there. And I got a t-shirt. And yes, it is super big, because by the time I got a t-shirt, apparently all of them in my size were out. So yeah, this was the t-shirt that they gave us. Big Dream, 2020 Vision. I had finally got my student account activated. I had finally got all of my information, and I took my picture for my student ID, and I was pretty much at that point an official student at Central State University. So let me just start off by saying this. Now that all this time has passed, and I can sit here and be honest with myself and be honest with my process, I don't think I was ready to live on campus. I don't think I was. Because yes, I wanted to go to college and live on campus for the experience, but I can honestly admit that I was also running away from a lot of my problems back at home. I feel like mentally and emotionally, I was not really ready to go off and be alone and be on campus. And not to mention, like, just me moving in general, it just showed, I cringe every time I think about this. I literally just wanted to leave. I wanted to run away. Like, it literally, I was running away. I was a fugitive. I was emotionally and mentally messed up. I didn't even have proper moving equipment. I didn't have any money, and honestly, this school was not my first choice, so I wasn't that hyped up about it. So my whole plan was to just get in, get my degree, and get out. I'm embarrassed to talk about this, but at the same time, I'm really not, because that's literally my story, and it's just like, hey, I can't do nothing about it. When I say I didn't have proper moving equipment, I mean I did not have anything that was like good enough to move and transport my stuff. I didn't have any luggage. I didn't have any luggage, I didn't have a trunk, I didn't have any of that. All of my belongings, everything that I planned on taking with me, I put it in those reusable Kroger bags. My mom has like 1 million of them, so I was just taking them out the kitchen and just putting my clothes in there, putting my makeup in there, my perfumes, everything. I have like probably 2 little containers, but like that was pretty much it. Everything else, I was putting them in little baskets, I was putting them in the bags. I was just getting my stuff and going. Looking back on that, that is so ratchet. That was just so, oh my God. Like, I mean, it served its purpose, you know, like it's not something where it's like I would ever shame somebody else for doing it, but that was like a clear sign that I was not ready to go. My aunt actually bought me these 2 blue trunks, and that's what I used to put my stuff in and to move my stuff out when it was time for us to leave campus. But yeah, had she had not bought those trunks, I would have still been packing like 1,000,001 Kroger bags. Not even joking, I had my mom, my siblings, like everybody that was in the house that day, I had them basically running up and down the steps to my room, taking bags of stuff and putting it in my uncle's truck. And the move itself was just like the most hectic, crazy thing in the world too, because it took us way longer to get to campus than it was supposed to, for multiple reasons that I'm not fully sure of. Like, there's certain things where I genuinely don't even remember why we stopped. I just remember we stopped. One of the stops was so I could get my trunks, but other than that, it was just I didn't know why we were stopping. And mind you, I didn't have a car, so it's like I'm literally just dependent on them, and the fact that they were like arguing about where to go and taking forever, it was just kind of like a zoner. But once again, I didn't care how I was getting there. I just wanted to get there and I wanted to go. So leave me, my Kroger bags and all of that alone. And if it take us 3 hours, as long as I approach, I am a-okay. And let me tell you something, when we got there, it was basically orientation all over again. I had to talk to this person and talk to this person and talk to this person before I could get my key. I had to go and talk to this healthcare lady about some waiver because they were like trying to charge me for their healthcare, because my school apparently gives you healthcare if you don't sign up and apply your own. But even though they give you your own healthcare, you're the one that has to pay for it at the end of the day. It was something like that. But yeah, it was just a whole lot of nonsense, and we had to go talk to this lady and get that waiver. And then it was like some type of medicine that I had to get a waiver for too, because apparently everyone was supposed to have it and I had never had it for like medical reasons and stuff. And then the ID. Let's talk about the student ID. I don't know why, because I'm not really sure how everything works, but I thought like straight up that I was gonna get my student ID sent in the mail or something. I had to go all the way to our student center and stand in a super duper long line to get my ID, because some people had theirs printed already and some people still had to get theirs printed. Some people still had to take their student IDs, and they had the nerve to put everything in alphabetical order, thinking that that was going to make it more organized. And the worst part about this whole entire situation, because that's another thing that I forgot to mention, I looked a hot mess. I looked a god-awful mess. I had just cut my hair and I was dressed in like the most bummiest pajamas that I could find, because in my mind I'm thinking like as soon as I get to campus we just moving, we just going, like we just finna move furniture, put my stuff away, all of that. And when it all came down to it, I had to go around so many other people and be in so many different people's faces. I didn't even do my hair. Like, that was the thing. I genuinely thought, okay, we're gonna come to campus, we're gonna go, everything's gonna be in order, and I'm just gonna like lay in my bed for a second before I go talk to anybody and do anything else. I was around so many people looking a god-awful mess. Apparently everybody else got the memo to dress their best and make sure their hair was laid before they came to campus, because I guess they knew they was gonna have to deal with this. I didn't. I was straight thugging it. And mind you, my class was like 900 people. Us, along with like the student ambassadors, were like the only people that were on campus. Returning students and the upperclassmen did not come to campus until like that following weekend. So literally I'm just like meeting all of these people in my graduating class looking a god-awful mess. So when I finally got my key and I got my ID and everything is pretty much out the way, we start moving my stuff into my room. My roommate had actually already came in there and set up her side of the room and her furniture, because she actually lived way closer to the school than I did. So 9 times out of 10 she got there way earlier than I did. So when we got in there, she wasn't in there, but all of her stuff was. And as I'm trying to put my stuff away, because we actually had to leave the room again so that I could go get my ID. So this was the first time that we stepped into my room and packed stuff up. Brandy, I have never told you this story. It's not serious, but at the same time, it just... it pissed me off, right? So when we were first in my room, putting my stuff away, getting everything settled in, my dad and my aunt and my uncle, you know, they were, you know, teenagers and young adults in the 90s. But my uncle, for some reason, just found it so odd and shocking that my roommate didn't have any pictures of herself laying around in our room. He thought it was so odd that there was nothing with her name attached to it so that we could even know her name and her face and all of that. And I'm just sitting there kind of like zoned out the whole entire time that he's making a big deal about it, because I'm just like, I have to live with her, sir? Like, why are you so heavily invested in the fact that you don't know what my roommate looks like is really weird. I mean, given, yeah, her stuff was already there and I'm moving in and, you know, I'm expecting to like one-on-one meet my roommate, but when it all comes down to it, it's not that big of a deal. Y'all, tell me why this man, we literally had to pull him back and stop him because this man tried to go through my roommate's stuff to find a picture of her and to find her name or anything associated with her. What is wrong with you? Like, I love my uncle, but that day I really was just like, I need you to leave. Like, please. I cannot wait until y'all pull off and I never have to see y'all again, because what the hell was that? So let's talk about how our room was set up too. First and foremost, we had the most rundown dormitory out of the whole entire campus. They literally had rooms that were up to date and up to par, like newly renovated rooms. And I'm guessing because I was late registration, that might explain why I end up getting like the bottom of the barrel. But like, oh my god, our dormitory sucked. The room was so itty bitty, we couldn't control any of our air, our heat, anything. We had a community bathroom where when we first moved in, it was already dirty. But as we were living there, the girls that we lived with were making it 10 times more dirty because apparently they don't clean when they go home. I don't know. That's one thing that college will definitely show you. College will show you exactly how people were raised and how they live their lives back at home, because that, I will never get those images out of my head. Literally so much hair in the shower. Why? And then in our room alone, I had already had this notion that I was gonna have everything for myself just in case, you know, just in case we had like a roommate horror story that you see on YouTube and stuff like that. I didn't want no problems. I didn't want no issues. So I came in there with my own microwave, my own refrigerator, my own TV. And like I had already said, because I didn't have my account or anything, I didn't even know who my roommate was until I had got to campus. So normal people, you know, other people, they were able to email and text their roommates and basically have a discussion about what they would bring and who would take what. We did not. We didn't. So we had 2 microwaves, 2 refrigerators, 2 TVs, and that basically made our room crowded. But at the same time, I liked the dynamic of it because we were able to store like way more stuff in our room. And with the 2 TVs, we could literally lay in our own beds and watch the same exact episode. And sometimes it would even feel like a surround sound situation going on. So like, you know, I'm not taking it back. I'm not taking it back. I liked our dynamic. But yeah, like, it was already a small room and we just made it 10 times more crowded, doubling up on all of our furniture. But man, let me tell you something. The Wi-Fi sucked. I feel like that's a lot of campuses though, because you're catering to so many different people in so many different areas. But like, literally our Wi-Fi barely ever worked, and when it did, it went super duper slow. The laundry room was like so far away from where we were, because in the renovated rooms, they actually had their laundry rooms on the same level floor that they were on. We did not. We had to go all the way to the basement to do our laundry. I do miss them dryers though. Them dryers. Oh, if Central State don't do nothing else right, them dryers, child. They spent good money on them dryers. But it still irritated me that like we had to go so far just to do our laundry. Then the people living there, oh my god, quiet hours? We were supposed to have that, but we didn't. Once again, you see how people live when they come to college. And then visitation. Lord, my whole entire graduating class basically didn't receive visitation the whole entire time. But do you think that stopped the people in my dormitory? No. And I lived in a co-ed dorm. So on the first floor, half of the floor was boys, half of the floor was girls. The second floor, which we lived at, was all girls, and then the third floor was all boys. Our visitation meant that we couldn't even have people within our same dormitory come over our room. If you did not live in that room, you could not come over, period. And I kid you not, our visitation in our specific dormitory was way, way longer than anybody else's, simply because people were not following the rules and just chilling. Oh my goodness. And one thing that just used to get on my nerves, do you know how many times I locked myself out of my room? Because we had doors where you could like tweak it so it could stay open if you wanted it to stay open, but me and my roommate, we didn't discover that yet. So like, we just kept our doors locked. Not to mention that it was also reports of people like going into other people's places and taking stuff. Like, What was wrong with these people? I don't know. So we just decided to keep our doors locked. Like, we don't want to even deal with that. But I swear, I kept forgetting that I wasn't at home and that I couldn't just leave my door unlocked while I go shower willy-nilly. So there would be plenty of times where I would forget to bring my key. And then, like, our dorm too, like, you had to swipe in order to get into the whole building. Then you needed your key to get into your room. And there would be times where I would forget, like, at least one of those things, because I'm used to moving freely. I'm not used to going to different checkpoints to make sure that I'm a legitimate student. I don't remember doing that because I had never had to do that before. So yeah, that was stressful and irritating because I'm just always forgetting something. Oh my goodness, and I never let Brandy live this down. When we first got there, we were the most fake ballin' bitches on campus. We did not care about saving food. We were eating so much of our food that we had packed with us. We were going to Applebee's almost like every single weekend just because we had the money to do it. When that money ran out, and all of the snacks was gone, you got like 3 packs of noodles left and like some graham crackers, man. The only thing you could do was go into that caf. That was the only thing you could do, go to that caf. And with the caf, certain things, it was a hit or miss. Certain things, it was just like, how many times we gonna eat this? But my biggest issue with the caf was that the hours that you had to eat, I understand they did that for organization and to make sure everyone, you know, gets to eat or whatever. But I'm the type of person where I will just randomly get hungry at any given time of day. So I don't have a specific time that I eat breakfast. I don't have a specific time that I eat lunch. And as far as dinner goes, I could honestly eat dinner from like either 5 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. So there were times where like I basically had to force myself to eat when I wasn't really fully hungry at that time, because I knew that if I didn't eat right now, that caf was not going to be open. And the few things that were open cost money, which I did not have. And then I would sit there and eat everything, but then I would come back in my room and feel a little peckish. I have no snacks, I have no money, I have no nothing. So getting accustomed to that was, oh my gosh, that was terrible too. And another thing, I just realized that I didn't even mention this. I gained so much weight before I even got into college. I hit my freshman 15 before I even became a freshman. Because the way my body operates, it just moves and fluctuates during like every 10 years of my life. Sometimes in the middle of it, they don't even care. They're just like, we gonna do it just because we can, and you're not gonna do anything about it. So I actually did want to start getting more active and going to the gym and stuff like that. Like, that was, honest to God, my plan. Tell me why the hours for the gym were like janky too. I forget what time the gyms were closing, but I think it closed around like 6 or something. And it's just like any other college, I'm pretty sure they don't close until like 9, 10 o'clock, if anything. Open like a little bit early in the morning. By the time it's time for the gym to close, we already have to go eat and go to dinner. And then I actually had one class that was in the evening on top of that. So it's just like, am I gonna go eat or am I gonna go work out? So that was like a pet peeve of mine too, because it's just like, so you just, student life was a little rough. It was a little rough, but I made it to college, and that was all that I cared about at that moment. One of the things that I have to say was the hardest about my first year of college was definitely the fact that I felt like I didn't really have any support. Not even just financially, even though financial issues were like very prominent. All in all, I just felt like I really couldn't depend on anybody. And it was really, really hard for me to just, you know, navigate with all the things that I was dealing with. So the thing is, like I said earlier, I was running away from a lot of my issues, a lot of my problems, and some of them were honest to God minute, but it still was something that I had never really expressed or told before, so it was very important to me. Me and my mom, we weren't on like the best terms by the time that I graduated high school. She would probably say that everything was fine, but in reality it really wasn't. It just seemed like the older that I got and the more that I was getting into new chapters in my life, me and her were just consistently clashing and just not seeing eye to eye, not getting along. But one of my biggest regrets about my whole college experience, from like the orientation to now, I really regret that my mom wasn't there. She didn't help me move into my dorm. She didn't come up to the campus when I first came up there. She didn't even come to the orientation. At that time, it really didn't bother me because, like I said, we weren't on the best of terms. So I'm just like, anything that will give me peace, I'm cool with it. But like, looking back on it now, it does kind of like bother me and devastate me because it's just like, that's my mom. And in a nutshell, like, my aunt pretty much hijacked that whole entire experience from her. Cause see, my aunt was an alumni at Central, so it's like she had already wanted me to go to Central anyways. She spoke so highly of it, and she just thought it was just such a good school, such a great HBCU. And she's not the reason why I went, but I thought like if I do go to this school that I would have like a little bit of leverage, a little bit of help, because I'm related to an alumni. One of my cousins is actually an alumni. I have another cousin that's an alumni. Like, I have people that have went to CSU and came out successful and decent. So I just kind of assumed that I was gonna have leverage, but not even just her being an alumni, but like, that's just my aunt's personality, where like she becomes really obsessive, especially when it has to do with other people's lives and issues and stuff like that. So I don't think she meant to do that, but at the same time, it was just like, looking back on it, was there even an attempt to even make sure that my mom could come when it was time for moving day? Like, my mom literally saw me off from the porch of our house. That was it. My dad could come, my grandma came, my uncle came, and my best friend came, who was, you know, also my cousin. But all in all, there was no room for my brother, my sister, and my mom. And I remember clear as day, public schools in Cincinnati didn't even open up yet. It was still summer break for everybody. And it's kind of heartbreaking when you really sit back and think about it, because it's just like, she was not there for any of that. And there were certain situations where I feel like if my mom was there, I would have known off the bat how to handle certain situations better. But like I said, whether it was a mistake or whether it was on purpose, my aunt pretty much just hijacked that whole entire experience from my mom. And you know, it's really sad. It's really, really sad, because that shouldn't have happened, period, point blank. Because the way that my family was raised, me and like 3 of my other cousins, we were kind of raised up under the same roof. Even though we all had our own houses and we all had our own moms and our own dads, it was like the way that we were raised, we low-key were raised like brothers and sisters. So it's like, that is technically like another mom for me. But when it all came down to it, that wasn't my mother. And it's just like, for someone to just try to take her place, it's just, now that I look back on it, it's just like, that should have never happened. That should have never happened. But yeah, as far as family goes, like, college really tested a lot of people's loyalty. A lot of people. It exposed a lot of ugly truths that I didn't even think would happen. One of my challenges was transportation. I didn't have a car, so I relied on other people to come and get me when I needed to go back home, whether it was for the breaks, whether it was because I just wanted to go home and get my hair done, or whatever. One thing that I learned is that there's a lot of people that will sit there and say that they're going to support you and they'll come through for you when it's time for you to start college. But when it all comes down to it, 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to be there. It's all talk. Like, it is all talk. There was only one person where I can say, like, I really depended on this person to come and get me when I needed them to come and get me. Everyone else, it just seemed like it was just so out of their way, even though they were the ones that volunteered to come and get me and help me with a lot of things. Like, I'm sorry if I'm being a burden on you, but like, you're the one that offered, and I'm taking you up on your offer. And mind you, I didn't even go home that many times because, like I had already said, I was running away from things. I didn't want to come back unless I absolutely positively had to. And it's just like, the few times that I needed to return home and go to campus, it just seemed like nobody was really there. Nobody really wanted to come get me. Nobody wanted to come through for me. And it's just like, don't offer your services if you're not going to come through. Don't offer to drive me places and do all these things for me if every single thing I do is going to seem like it's going out of your way and I'm being a burden on you. Hopefully everybody's experience is not like that, but I'm telling y'all, 9 times out of 10, it's probably gonna be like that. It's probably gonna be like that. And because of me not having a car, I couldn't even get a job either, because Central State campus is actually like in the middle of nowhere. So it's like, if you do want a job, you're definitely gonna have to get somebody to come and pick you up and drop you off every time you have to go to work, or you have to get your own car. And then all the retail jobs were like, what, 30 minutes away, possibly a little bit lower than that. But either way, it definitely took a car. And the public transportation that that city had, it was like, you could have kept that. I think that bus literally came like every 3 hours, and it didn't even go everywhere that you needed it to go. So when it all came down to it, I had no money. I couldn't even do my work study because for some reason, like, nobody ever called me back for my work study. I was broke. I was like broke to the point where my friends were paying my way so that I could get into shows that cost $1. I didn't have $1. The little bit of money that I had from time to time, that would be for me to wash my clothes and any other necessities that I needed, like groceries or something like that. But that was another thing too. I made a whole brand new bank account so that people could send me money, because that was another thing. I didn't work my junior year or my senior year because people wanted me to focus on my education. People didn't want me to worry about anything money related, anything car related, anything. Everyone said that they had my back and everybody said that they had me. But at the end of the day, that bank account had $20 here and there. And the people that were consistently putting money in my bank account were only 2 people, and that was my mom and my godmother. There was even arguments with other people in the family about why didn't you send her money, and you were supposed to be sending her money weekly and all these other things. And it's just like, when it all comes down to it, I didn't get any money. I didn't get any money. And yeah, this person could have sent me money, but who's the person that said through their own lips that they would financially support me and they would help me with my transportation and they would do this, that, and the third? So don't try to point the finger at someone else and say that they should have done this because they said they were going to do it to you. At the end of the day, I didn't receive that. And I didn't feel that love and support that I said I was going to get when I went off to college. Because had I had known the things that I would have known now, I would have definitely worked. And I definitely would have saved up to get my own car. I would have done all of that. But I was told those were things that I didn't have to worry about. And taking it back, because I didn't even mention this, that $300 registration fee that I had to pay for when I committed to Central State, my mom had to get a part-time job just to get me those $300, because nobody apparently had $300 for me to go off to school. I literally started a GoFundMe. I had to start a GoFundMe for $300. For $300. Honestly, $300 really ain't nothing. Like, once again, if y'all would have allowed me to work, this would not have been a problem. This would not have been a thing. But everybody knew best. Everybody knew that, oh no, you should focus on your studies. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. When you got family, we got your back, da-da-da-da. $300 never appeared. The way that it appeared was because my mom got a part-time job to get me $300. I remember I asked one of my family members for like $20, because anytime I ever hit somebody up and asked them for money, I was never greedy. I literally would tell them $20 will literally get me through like 2 weeks, because all I'm gonna do is wash my clothes, possibly go grocery shopping for like some more noodles or something like that, and I'm good. Toilet paper, all of that. Like, that was all that I wanted. That was all that I needed. I'll never forget, I called one of my family members and I waited for that $20 that never came, ever. And then when it came to me starting to have issues in school with, like, you know, financial aid and all types of other things that were going on, I would turn to the alumni that I was related to and ask them, like, you know, what's up with this? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do with that? Like, I would literally ask. And one of the main people that I used to ask was my aunt, who was just, you know, a part of this journey from like start to finish. And her recommendation would be for me to call my mom and we figure it out on our own. And then she would call like later on that week and then ask me if the problem got fixed. And it's just like, what would be the point of me calling you every time I have a problem and you're literally doing nothing? Because it would be one thing if it's like you had an input or you were gonna like help drive my mom up here so that we could fix something or whatever. But it's like you basically just wanted to know what was going on in my life and just sit back and watch. You didn't really do too much of anything. Like, literally, whole entire time I was on campus, I felt like I had no support and I had nobody that was really gonna come through for me. If it wasn't for my roommate and her family, I literally would have been out here looking dumb. I would have been out here looking crusty because I needed help in the worst way. And I felt like there was nobody that was there for me. Because mind you, I would have worked, I would have bought my own car, I would have did all of that. But I was told repeatedly that that was not something that I had to worry about, and I held people to that. And because I held people to that, I ended up looking stupid. Never again. Never, ever, ever again. You guys probably already know by now. FAFSA is a bitch. FAFSA is a bitch, especially when you are a first-generation college student. I have a lot of college graduates in my family, but my parents decided that they wanted to go straight into the workforce. So technically, that made me a first-generation college student, which was eligible for a lot of benefits and a lot of things going on. Let me tell you something. FAFSA is literally the most complicated thing that you will probably ever come in contact with going off to college. Imagine you're a kid. You are literally a kid. At that time, you don't realize how much of a kid you are, but you are literally a child. And as soon as you hit the legal age of 18, you're just given this information about applying for a loan. Like basically, this is your first bill. This is your first ever bill that you will ever pay in your life. You know nothing. You know nothing. You know nothing about any of the terminology, any of the anything that's being talked about. And because you're a first generation college student, your parents barely even know what's going on. So it's just like all of this stuff that you need to understand and you need to get through in order for you to live your life and get an education. You're pretty much solo dolo even when people are trying to help, because it's just so confusing. College will show you how hard life is, but I'm telling you, it's not just FAFSA and it's not just college related. The way the world works, as soon as you turn 18 years old, as soon as you hit the legal age to say that you're an adult, the world does not have mercy on you. The world does not care about if you were taught this in school, if your parents taught it to you, if your parents went to college. They don't care. They will talk to you and give you information as if you're just supposed to already know it. They're not going to take sympathy on you if this is your first time. They don't care. And that was one of the most stressful things that happened to me on campus. It seemed like every time I turned around, they were trying to charge me for something. They would just miraculously find this balance that I owed them. And it's just like, how do I owe you any money? I just got here. I kid you not, it was like my third week. My third week on campus. Third week. And I had somehow owed them $1,000. How? When? Why? Literally none of it made sense to me, and it's like I was trying and struggling so hard to get it through my head. Then not only that, it's like the way that my mom acts when she gets stressed out, it's just like pulling teeth. Like it just, there's certain situations where it's like I know I need help and I know I need assistance, but I don't even want to call her because she's just gonna make me stressed out. She's gonna make the situation way more complicated and confusing for me. So I'm battling on if I want to handle this by myself or if I want to call her or what's supposed to be done. I'm trying to reiterate what's been told to me in the best way that I can explain it, and I don't even know what was said. And then, like I already said, with orientation and all of that, you will find yourself talking to like all the departments in the whole entire school, because it's always something wrong, but it seems to never be anybody's fault. And you always have to talk to this person before you talk to this person and this person and this person and this person and this person, and then you find out that the first person that you talked to was actually the person that was supposed to fix it. Irritation. And then, oh my gosh, hold on, let me put my hair back for this. This was the thing that really kind of catapulted my whole entire issue with my first year of school. So during orientation, I was just happy to get in, get out, and get everything that was done, because as I already stated, it was super packed, super unorganized, like nothing was really up to par the way it was supposed to be. I had a lady basically give me my class schedule. Once again, I was late registration, so I understand that I pretty much just got anything that was left and anything bottom of the barrel. But I wasn't fully paying attention when this woman was scheduling my classes. She ended up giving me a college algebra course, and it had a lot of credit hours attached to it. Cause see, at my school, I think we needed like 16 credit hours in order to be permitted to live on campus. And I forget how many credit hours was a part of that class, but it was a lot. especially compared to my other classes. But I didn't realize literally until I had got to campus and started taking classes that I wasn't even supposed to have that class, because I had AP classes. I had an AP credit for college algebra and I think trigonometry, some version of trigonometry. So coming to college, the only 2 math classes that I needed in order to complete my major was statistics and I believe finance, I think, but I'm not fully sure. So had I been paying attention and actually being invested in what this lady was doing, I would have been able to tell her like right off the bat, like, oh no, I don't need college algebra, I already have that credit. But yes, there's a but. At the end of the day, she probably still would have had to give me that class, because why is it that I didn't find out until like probably October that my school did not have my transcripts? They didn't have my transcripts. There was basically no evidence that I had even went to high school. How does that happen? How? Like, I just got accepted. I just moved in here. I've been here for like a good minute now. And you're just now discovering this. So in the process of trying to retrieve my transcripts, long story short, I have a trash guidance counselor from high school. And yes, I will say it because she was trash. The best thing that she did about her job was help people skip classes. That woman does not do her job. She does not do her job. She never has. And of course, I'm not trying to make myself seem superior or anything like that, but it was very telling from the first moment that I met her. She didn't even take the time to actually learn anybody's name unless she was helping them skip. She kept confusing me for some other girl because we had similar names. And just everything in between that was just an excuse for her not to do her job properly. I called her about that. I called her about my transcripts, and literally for months, me and my mom had to basically play phone tag with her in order for her to pick up the phone and do what she needs to do. And she attempted to try and charge us to send my transcripts over to the school, and I had to cut her off because I'm just like, no. If we were to go to another school or we needed our transcripts sent a second time, then we would have to pay. But evidence shows you didn't even send it the first time. I kid you not, for months we had to call the school because she literally was never in her office. She was never picking up the phone. She was never present. Like, nobody could ever get a hold of her. And when we finally did get a hold of her, I had to basically like get on her about sending my transcripts, which is your job. But then, why is it that when she finally sends my transcripts, she doesn't send over the credits for my AP courses that I took? Because our AP credits are basically through this community college back at home, and technically they have records of us being like students, but like technically we're still, you know, high schoolers. I can't explain the full process of it, but those that took AP classes, you get what I'm saying. She forgot to send over that credit and that information to my school, and that was basically the gist of what I needed in order to withdraw from that class and do everything that I needed to do as far as getting rid of that class. And she tells me that it was my responsibility to call that school and get my transcripts from them so that they can get it. Quick question to anybody who might stumble upon my YouTube and went to high school with me. Did you have to do that when you applied to school? Or was it just me? Because I already know the answer to this, but I just want to verify because I know I'm not tripping. Just let me know. So that was like some BS, man. And then because by the time she had actually responded and actually did that itty bitty bit of work that we had to force her to do, it had already passed the time period for us to be allowed to withdraw a class and get like a refund or half of a refund or just withdraw, period. So by that time, it was already like I could still withdraw, but if I withdraw that class, what class am I going to replace with that? Especially this late in the year. because ultimately, if I don't have a certain amount of credit hours, I can't be permitted to live on campus. So I was literally having 1,001 conversations with my academic advisor and some other guy. I wish I knew his actual job title and I wish I remembered his name, but I don't. I was having 1,000,001 conversations with them about this whole entire process, this whole entire ordeal. And that particular man, we're just gonna like call him Curly because I remember him having curly hair. This man told me that in order for me to live on campus, I had to have these credit hours. So what we were gonna do was that we were going to keep this class, but I did not have to take that class. And once the final grades had came in, he would have did something to where it would have been like, I don't want to say that because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but basically he said I didn't have to worry about that class and it would technically not count towards me, or that it would be like erased or something. So when we had that conversation and I handed him all the paperwork that I needed and there was proof of like my transcripts and all of that, I left it alone. I left it alone. I didn't go to that class. I didn't do anything else after that because he had already gave me the green light. He had already gave me the A-OK that I didn't need to. Tell me why when the final grades come out, I get a complete 0. I get an F in that class, and that affected my GPA. That's not what was told to me. That wasn't what was told to me at all, but it's like now I can't really do anything about it. So yeah, business-wise, technicality-wise, that was like the most irritating thing about college. So let's get to the fun stuff. Let's talk about our social lives. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't think I was gonna be social. I didn't think I was gonna be as social as I was when I got to campus. I already told you guys, my game plan was to get in, get out, and just leave it be. But honey, I was in everybody's face. I didn't go to every single party, but I definitely was like, you know, shown. I had a lot of friends, a lot of acquaintances, block parties, house parties, all types of parties really. But let me tell you something. I didn't bring a lot of my clothes with me when I first started packing because, as I already stated, I had gained like a whole ton of weight, so there were certain clothes where I just couldn't fit them anymore anyways. But not only that, I just had it in the back of my mind that I was gonna go to school and I was gonna work, so I could always replace all of my clothes. See how that worked out. So my clothes were very, very limited, and then the fact that I had no transportation back home and I had no money, I couldn't go get my hair done by anybody on campus, and I couldn't go back home to get my hair done by my mama like I usually do. And then do I have to reiterate that I went to a school that was in the middle of nowhere? What hair store? And I'm black. No, there was nothing out there for me. And I had cut my hair for the first time because I was officially going natural after that, but I had gave myself like a little short, cute cut. Well, it wasn't cute. It wasn't cute after a while, but I gave myself a short cut that was cute at the time for a very short period of time. So it's like my hair looked a mess on top of that. So just imagine, like, I'm overweight, all of my clothes are kind of like blah, and then my hair looks a mess. Like the Tassie that you see in front of you right now, I did not look like this on campus. I will be honest with you. I didn't look like this. I didn't look like this at all. And the crazy thing about it is I was still attracting boys. There were still people that were attracted to me. I don't know how. I honest to God don't. I don't know why. But yeah, I didn't have problems as far as like meeting new people and meeting boys and dating and stuff like that. And when it all came down to it, a lot of them boys was playing games, and apparently I'm the bad guy because I played the game right after them. Like I don't understand that. I mean, hello, there's no ring. I don't. What are we upset about, sis? But hey, it happened. It is what it is. But another thing about like the whole dating scene too was that I didn't take them serious, not only because they were playing games and doing stupid stuff, but also because before I had came to college, I actually had gotten out of a really draining relationship. I think I broke up with him like probably early senior year, definitely early senior year. So it had been months before I had actually like moved in and went to college, but it was still just like, ugh. Like when I say he was draining, I mean like he was like essence is gone. So even though a lot of time had passed, I still was not where I needed to be as far as like being a lovey-dovey person, as far as being emotional. Like I did not want a single soul around me at all. We can have our little fun, we can talk, we can flirt, we can do all of that. But am I cuffing you? Never. And I let them know that. I told them that, but they just made this conscious decision that that didn't matter and that I was gonna magically fall in love with them, and it just didn't work out like that. So now there's like a bunch of people that hate me, but it is what it is. And as far as friends go, I can honestly say that I had like a few trial and errors. We're not gonna talk about them though. But all in all, I did make really, really good friends. I damn near created my own family when I got up there. So social wise, I wouldn't say that I struggled. My only regret is that I didn't look together and up to par, because I really am so upset that I look like that. I'm so upset by that. Even with makeup, like back then I really didn't wear makeup like that. Like I didn't start wearing makeup until I had met my friends for real, because I kind of like started, you know, picking up on things and learning. Because no shade, but it was certain people I was hanging out with in high school and I'm just like, your makeup is so trash. Like all of our makeups were trash when we were first starting out, but it was just like it was a different level. It was like a different level of just nothing, and I couldn't do that. So I was the type of girl where like I would put highlighter on, I would put lip gloss on, or like colored lip gloss, and I may or may not do something to my eyebrows, but like that was pretty much it. I never did foundation, concealer, none of that. Like none of that. I was a lip type of girl. Like that was pretty much it. The most extravagant thing that was on me was like my lips, and I like put like one color of eyeshadow on my eyes a few times, but like for the most part I just was not that big into makeup. I never took an hour to do my makeup. I never did any of that until I went off to college. But I'm really happy that I met like some really, really solid, really, really fun people that I still talk to this day. Like that was like the biggest accomplishment really. And the fact that my roommate is still like my best friend, like one of my best friends after all these years. Child, we ain't been in a room in like 3 years. That's still my roommate. I still call her my roommate. Like social wise, I definitely did great. But I have to say, of course, like everything else, there's always a challenge. College is a very, very different frontier. Whether you live on campus or you're just commuting, college is just this brand new experience that people never really properly explain. Growing up watching certain TV shows and even like listening to older people, they would always say that college was hard, and I always thought that they meant like the educational aspect or like the work, but no, it's literally everything. I never had problems as far as like academics. Like even in school, I literally went to summer school once, and that was because my junior year. My junior year was like really bad for me because they had messed up my schedule, and like honestly the work got harder too. But like all in all, I've never been someone where I've ever had trouble academic wise. And I never understood the concept that like there's other aspects of your life that can heavily influence your academics and just the way that you move, period. When people used to say that, I genuinely thought that they were just making excuses as to why they kept messing up. But now that I've experienced it and I'm older, it's like that is so true. And as I already stated, I feel like I'm repeating myself, which I don't want to do, but as I already stated, I was running away from a lot of trauma and a lot of problems back at home, because I thought that if I like ran away and I didn't address it and I suppressed it, that everything was gonna be peachy keen and that everything was gonna be exactly the way it was supposed to. I didn't realize that the more that you hold it in, the worse that it's gonna be, and your past can definitely come into the present and mess up a lot of things. So to say the least, my mental took a toll while I was at college as well. But not only that, it's just like the lifestyle of being on college is so completely different too. Because as I already stated, like people talk to you as if you're just supposed to know things. And if you don't know it for whatever reason you don't know it, they don't care. So it's like that was just really, really hard to deal with. And like I said, academics has never been a problem for me. But I will admit that the scheduling of the classes is what made it a little challenging. You've probably already seen it or talked about it already, where you miss one day of class and it just seems like you missed like a whole year. But that's literally how it is sometimes, because you never know. One day it could be, okay, we're only gonna stay in class for 20 minutes and then you guys can go off to lunch and eat. The next minute it might be like a whole hour and 50-minute lecture. The next minute they could be assigning extra credit, homework, ask all of these things. And if you're not there to know that information, it's just kind of it for you. And then this is the thing that really kind of like broke me. Let's say you have a class and you only have this particular class on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Imagine that you just learned this lesson Monday and you didn't understand it Monday. Now, there is such a thing as office hours, so you can go to these office hours, but if you had a schedule like me where you had an afternoon class and you had to make that conscious decision to eat at a timely manner and go off to class and be able to put aside a certain amount of time to study and do homework, you probably don't have the freedom to skip that time so that you can go to someone's office hours. So ultimately, you can't even ask a question or understand a topic until like Wednesday. So Wednesday comes around, you still have assignments that are due for that class that are due by Friday. You think you finally got the hang of everything and you understand everything that's going on and you know everything has been explained in detail to you. Friday comes around, you do all the assignments, it's a end of the week pop quiz or something, and by next Monday, or whenever the grades for that particular thing on Blackboard gets uploaded, you discover that you failed because you thought you understood everything that was going on, when in reality, you got every single question wrong. But we don't have time to talk about it, we don't have time to dwell on it, we don't have time to ask questions and understand it because we're already going into the next chapter. It's a new week. So if you don't know it, you just don't know it and you gotta take that L. And another thing that really tripped me up too was the fact that in high school, we had this program where we could log in and see like in real time what our grades were. It didn't have to be midterm, it didn't have to be a final grade. We literally could monitor our letter grades and our GPAs right then and there. At my school, I don't know if other schools don't have it. From what I've seen, a lot of schools don't have it, but at my school, they don't have that. You literally just have to wait until midterm and wait until the final grades to even find out if you're passing, failing, doing okay, doing terrible, whatever. And with the scenario that I just mentioned, like just imagine how hard that is. Like you sit there for a whole semester thinking that you understand what's going on and that you're doing everything right, and you apparently just been lost the whole entire time. You have no clue what's going on. And things like that were also hard too, because I had a biology teacher where she actually was grading my assignments, but somehow in the computer, according to her class, I had a complete 0 because I wasn't attending her classes when I had literally proof, literal graded work to show that I was present in class for these assignments. Because we wouldn't have homework, we literally would have class assignments, one project that we had to do before grades went in, and labs. You can't do a lab unless you are at the lab. And labs and the presentations were worth way more than any classwork. So it's just like, how was I not present this whole entire time? And I didn't find this information out literally until final grades went in. But let me tell you something. The class that put the nail in the coffin for me, like genuinely speaking, financial accounting. That is not to be played with, and I still get nervous to this day. I thought that anything associated with business management was going to be all math, all numbers, and technically it is. But financial accounting is basically just like a big word problem and a bunch of terminology, and you knowing the different definitions of each terminology. I suck at word problems. I have always sucked at word problems. When it comes to math, I need visual learning. Not to mention the terminology. I still to this day struggle with the difference between an asset and all these other things. Like it was just so nerve-wracking and so hard for me. It was the first time ever in my life where I felt so stupid. Everyone around me seemed to understand what was going on. They're speaking as like, it felt like they were speaking a foreign language. I was going to tutoring, I was going to study tables and all types of things, and I just did not get it. I just didn't understand. And any other normal person, they would have just like withdrew the class and replaced it with another one and did something else. But for me, it wasn't that easy for me. I wanted to try. Like, I don't knock anybody else for anything, but for me, I wanted to try my hardest to make sense of the situation and get it done, because in my eyes, if I withdraw this class, this is me giving up, and I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to just say forget about it and leave it alone. I didn't want to do that. So I struggled as much as I could, and I tried to get as much information as I could, and ultimately I got to that exam. I left about 85% of that exam blank, and I walked out. That was it. I found out that June of 2017 that I was academically suspended. I had flunked out of college. The thing that stings the most about that situation is the fact that I was actually in the process of going back to school shopping, and I got the news. Honestly, it was like worse than a heartbreak. It was worse. I felt like I had failed. I felt so stupid. I felt defeated. I didn't feel good about myself at all. I literally had never had an issue when it came to my grades. Never. I had literally worked my whole entire school career so that I could go to college. Like, college has literally been a dream of mine since I was a child. And the fact that I flunked out of college, that did something to me. It really did. Not to mention going back home, the very place that I tried to escape from. And I had no choice but to face some of my demons and some of my traumas and all types of things. Like, I had no choice but to fix it. I really felt terrible. I felt like a piece of shit. All the friends that I made, all the goals that I had planned, everything that I wanted to do, I had to leave all of that behind. All of it. And then, like, it's not an ego thing. I hate to seem vain, but, like, not only that, the last memory of me is when I was probably the most mentally and emotionally unstable. Physically just all over the place. Like, that is really not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling at all. That's like my lasting impression to a lot of people. And you know, the thing that I hated the most was that the few people that I would tell about my academic suspension, besides like my parents and my family, first thing out of their mouths would be that I probably just, you know, the work was too hard, or the fact that the school that I go to is an infamous party school. And they just assumed that, like, I was just slacking off and I wasn't trying and I wasn't working and I wasn't doing anything that I was supposed to. And it's just like, no, that's not it. That's not the case. At that time, I didn't realize that it had that much of an effect on me. But just think about that for a second. I have no money. I have no way to do anything. I look a mess, even though I know to a lot of people it's like that doesn't make a difference, but it did. It was a representation of how I was feeling at that time. I looked a mess. I was emotionally and mentally drained. I didn't have proper luggage. There were a lot of things missing from me, whether it was up here or whether it was in the physical world. There were so many aspects of who I was as a person that just were not there. Looking back on it now, I want to grab myself and I want to tell myself to stay at home, because I was not ready. I wasn't ready. I was ready to leave. I most definitely was ready to leave. But college is not a vacation. College is not a spring break. College is not a spa day. College is real life with real life problems and real life people. Not everybody is ready for that, especially if you're going to live away from home. I didn't flunk out because the work was hard and I was just slacking off. I flunked out because I was not mentally, emotionally there to even give it my all, and I had a lot of obstacles in my way and a lot of things that I lacked that would have made such a huge difference to me in my process. That's why it happened. And then to add insult to injury, I have been out of school for 3 years. I was supposed to graduate this year, 2020. I didn't get to do that. I've been trying to go back to school. I've been trying to go back to Central for the past 3 years. Every semester, every term. And I have always had some type of obstacle standing in my way that has basically pushed me back and tell me that I couldn't go. And to a certain extent, it's humiliating. It is. It really is. Because once again, like me, I was a scholar. I was just always on academic honor roll and all types of things. Like academics was never a problem for me. It's a little humiliating sitting here saying that I have been out of school for 3 years. I am 22 years old. But in the same breath, I have to say everything definitely happens for a reason. Like looking back on certain things, it happened for a reason. Because even those many times that I tried to go back, even those times, I was not ready. There were still things that I was missing. I still was not confronting my traumas and my demons. I'm still in the process of like rejuvenating myself in a spiritual sense and every other sense. But like all in all, like I was not spiritually ready. I was not emotionally ready. I was not mentally ready. I remember one time, the first time that I tried to go back to college, I actually packed up all my stuff and the only amount of food that I had was like probably 3 yakisoba noodles. And I just was like, I'm ready. No, I wasn't. No, I was not. So I have to say everything definitely happens for a reason, but that doesn't change the fact that that was like the most heartbreaking situation that I have ever experienced in my life. So yeah, that was my first year of college in a nutshell. I have actually never in depth talked about my first year because it's just such a bittersweet moment. It's such a bittersweet memory, you know? But I felt like, you know, one thing that I need to do as far as me growing into a new person and getting all these new opportunities is that I have to be honest with myself. I have to be honest with the people around me. And like I said, everything happens for a reason. It's still kind of sad that, you know, it took all these years and $8,000 in debt later to discover this lesson, but like at the end of the day, it happened because it was meant to happen for me. That's not saying that college is off the table. I still want to go to college. I still want to get my degree and stuff. I want to do all of those things. And that's still possible for me because I'm only 22 years old. So I wanted to make this video for entertainment purposes, but I also wanted to make it because I want people to be aware that this is kind of sort of what you may or may not experience your first year of college. I feel like we need to start normalizing the idea of taking a semester or taking a year off before we send our kids off to college. And that's actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to take a year off from school because I knew that financially it was going to be some work and I definitely wanted a car. But everybody around me was just telling me that like if I didn't go right then and there that I was never gonna go again because I'll be so used to making money and having freedom that I'm gonna forget what it feels like to be in school and it's gonna be a absent memory in my head. But at the end of the day, I knew what I was capable of and I knew what my goals were in life, and I'm still trying to go back to school. So I really should have just listened to my heart. I should have just listened to myself and I wouldn't be in this situation. But once again, everything happens for a reason. So if you can, and if your parents will allow you, I have to say, like, I would highly recommend taking a year off or a semester off because that is a huge transition. That is a huge transition that everyone is not prepared for. Schools and sometimes our parents, they tend to just rush you into these big life-changing decisions, but you can't rush something like college. You really can't. It is such a big decision and such a big situation. Not to mention it costs money, and not to mention that college is not for everyone. It's not. And that's okay, you know? So honestly, like if you honest to God can, I would recommend you take that break, you take that transitioning period, you find yourself, you address everything, you get all the things that you need before you make this leap, And if you do happen to make this leap and you have a similar story to me, or a worse story than me, or you have some type of crazy situation, I need you to understand that everything is going to be okay. You are a human being, you make mistakes, things happen, and it is never too late to try again. It is never too late to redeem yourself. I promise you, it will be okay. College is always going to be there. Always. Don't rush it. Listen to your mind, listen to your body, listen to the world around you. Do what's right for you and only you, because you're gonna be the one paying for it at the end of the day. So hopefully you guys like this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and share if you can. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't be afraid to click that subscribe button. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.